Hello and welcome to this video. This is round 10 coverage of the candidates tournament. Yeah, what happened in round 10? Well, I have to be honest there. We had 3 not so exciting games and 1 very nice game. So I'm going to get the 3 not so exciting ones out of the way and come to the main course. Yeah, a little bit more quickly than usual maybe. Let's see. And we start with Karjakin Giri. Yeah, Karjakin still in the lead of this event with +2. And Giri with 9 draws certainly needs to win a game. He was very close to a win against Caruana, but he defended like a lion and it was Giri's 9th draw. Yeah, okay, this game we have Slav turning into a semi-Slav. And Karjakin goes e3. Yeah, this is not a boring opening at all. It's sometimes not quite fair what people sometimes tell about Giri on social media and so on, that he's so boring or whatever. He has a very high draw rate, and there were some games in this event that were a bit strange, I felt. They really didn't display the proper fighting spirit, I think, or willingness to take some risks to win this event. But here, this kind of black opening is totally okay. It's not boring at all. We'll see what happens. Bishop d3, bishop b7. Yeah, Karjakin also goes for a very sound, solid 9 here. a3, rook c8, and now b4. Yeah, this idea has been known for quite a while. This blockade of the c5 square. Black should try for some counterplay against this, and Giri, I think, shows how it should be done. He played the move a5 directly. Yeah, you need to do something. If you, as black, don't play actively, the danger is that this bishop on b7 stays incarcerated and will never do anything useful in the game. So a5 makes lots of sense. Queen b3 by Karjakin. Rook b1 also has been seen in this position. It's very, very similar. After rook b1, however, there are some tactical possibilities that probably Karjakin did not want to allow. There's been a game, for example, a recent game between Mamedyarov and Navarra, where Navarra here played the remarkable move c5, an idea that is not unknown, of course, in this opening. Black sometimes can play in this brutal way. Takes here, knight takes, rook takes. Yeah, and this is surprisingly totally fine for black. He's got these ideas on the c file and he can swing the rook over. In that mentioned game, after rook b5, knight d5, nice one.
Check.
The draw is already unavoidable. It's quite a funny position. Yeah? There's the mate threat and the threat of the perpetual, and white has to take care of this first, and now has to allow the perpetual. Yeah, quite funny. So queen b3 is probably played because of this idea, so that c-file action is avoided. Yeah, Giri plays e5. This is technically a novelty, but not really a very surprising move. Yeah, I mean, e5 makes sense, get some play in the center. Knight e4, got this traded, and g6. Yeah, and here the question is, I mean, what white is now playing is more or less forcing the game continuation. It's there is very little that both sides can do to avoid what happens in the game. So we can try to look here if white can do much more. maybe this is not the case. He plays the capture, but yeah, okay, what other moves are there? If white plays bishop b2 here, he has to reckon with this, and after knight takes, for example, then
check.
Bishop takes h2 comes into consideration. Check. It's not easy to play this with black because of that diagonal, but it doesn't seem to it doesn't seem to be able to punish directly. That was a weird sentence. White does not seem to be able to punish this directly. Yeah, this is at the end played by Karjakin. Those trades, and it would be all nice and good if white would be able to prevent black from playing c5, but this happened, and now we see this tempo, and at the same time the support move, the support for the move c5. Yeah, queen c2, tempo, and here we go. Yeah, and this signals that black has completely equalized. In fact, if you look at this just a bit superficially, you'd think that black is even better, but this rook ending is ultimately nothing.
Check.
Here they agree to a draw. Yeah, not much that you can do. If black goes here, which is probably the easiest, we get this ending, and yeah, this ending is just a complete draw. I mean, it is a draw without this pawn, so not really much to play for, and black can never promote the pawn, of course. So a draw. Not a very exciting game, but there's no particular reason to blame the black player for that. Karjakin played into this opening. This is one of Giri's main defenses against d4, and if he came up with this new idea here, queen b3, and well, after e5 basically didn't have anything in store. It's just what it is. I mean, black here has equalized comfortably, and he cannot play for a win just like that out of a position where he has equality and not much more. So not very exciting. Certainly an okay result for Karjakin. Yeah, it would be better to win, but a draw is not bad at all if you lead the event. Yeah, Giri has 10 draws now and 4 rounds left, so yeah, time to win. Time to win. Okay, next game to check is Svidler Nakamura. Both players basically out of contention for the spot to play against Carlsen. Let's see what they do. Okay, got an English opening with g3 and bishop b4. Funny thing is, we now will look at the three remaining games, and they all had this opening. It's really funny. It's one of the absolute trends in this tournament that the c4 e5 gets played a lot. Well, the c4 itself is kind of not a big surprise. The c4, the English opening, has become a lot more popular in recent months and maybe last 1 or 2 years, because it avoids many problem openings that white faces quite regularly. Yeah, for the e4 players, the Berlin, the Marshall, these are difficult, and even a lifelong e4 player, Svidler, experiments with 1c4. There are also some other reasons why c4 gets played more. One is that Grunfeld type of things are not so easy to get, because let's say knight f6, knight c3, white is basically threatening e4 here, and if black wants some Grunfeld type of game, he would have to play d5, and this is probably somewhat questionable. I mean, not that it is bad, but it doesn't have the reputation of equalizing comfortably. Black can try some other Grunfeldish type of things like c5, knight f3, d5, but this is all not so well explored ground. So this is, I think, one reason for c4 being more popular. Another little point is, by the way, that it also avoids or adds interesting twists to lines in the Slav defense. Yeah, c6, the Slav here from c6 here. White has additional ideas, for example, this or this. This is quite interesting to avoid the mainstream theory and go for something new. Okay, but we have e5. And this is the most popular move on almost all levels. Understandably so, I think c4, e5 is probably the most logical reply. Okay, so here we got d6. This is not the main line. Probably rook e8 is the main line, or e4, those two moves. d6, of course, not bad. This is maybe the most, yeah, is solid the right word? It's the simplest move, let's say. Rook e8 or e4, they are a lot more direct and tactical in nature. d3 and h6. Yeah, black feels that bishop g5 could be a problem, so h6 is a tempo well spent. Yeah, this whole position is very much resembling an English, a Sicilian with reversed colors, with bishop to b5. And it's not so easy to give white advice how to develop some real initiative in this position. One idea can be to play knight d5 at some point, trying to trade those knights and maybe play on the c file. So something like this. I'm just showing the idea, so that after the knight moves, white will be able to play on the c file. This is one idea for white. He can also try to play e3 and d4. This kind of thing after some preparation. In the game, knight a4 is played. An interesting try. Yeah, the knight is just going away from the possible capture. We know that this is so dangerous, but idea is just a3, b4 and harass that bishop. Nakamura goes a5. This prevents b4. b3 now. If white tries a3, then bishop c5. And there is really no reason for black to be afraid of that, because here those pawns have very good central control, and black's play is going to be very easy. Yeah? He just plays the bishop out, queen, and then centralizes everything. Just a very nice centralized position. Giving up the bishop pair is not such a big deal here, as the central control is so strong. Yeah, so b3, bishop b2, and bishop f5. Yeah, the whole setup that black chooses here is all very natural. Yeah, we see that he develops in a very simple fashion, and maybe queen to d7 and bishop h3 comes into mind. Yeah, white now tries to play for that d4 idea. And now queen moves again. Yeah, he was probably wanted to clear this square for the knight. We will see something very, very similar in the game Aronian Topalov. This is the game we will look at after this one. Knight d5. Yeah, this was one idea. The other idea, as I mentioned, is to play d4. With d4, however, white always has to be a little bit cautious about this pawn. If black gets to a pin, then this pawn would be hanging. So this is something that white can play, but it's not very, very one-sided. Black has this counterplay against the center. Yeah, knight d5 was tried in this game, and now the next couple of moves are pretty forced. Takes, knight back to e7 and d4. Yeah, this is an idea that white employs quite often in this structure. Here, black's main concern is that he has a pawn here on a half open file, and if he is not careful, this could be a liability. But Nakamura, yeah, takes care about this very, very quickly. He goes to h3 here, e4, supporting this pawn, and now black plays c6. So immediately trying to, yeah, getting rid of this obstructing pawn on d5. I think this is just the right decision and probably leads to equal play. Here we have all those captures here. And here, and now b4. That was probably the idea that Svidler based his play upon. All these captures, he was going for this point. Yeah, bishop b6 now by Nakamura. He carefully calculated that the capture on d6 is not putting him into much danger. Black also could have taken here this kind of thing, but I don't know if you want to play this position here. Yeah, like bishop takes, unsure. What black can do here is he can take on e4. After takes, play rook h4, and this forces a draw, threatening the mate.
Check.
It's a draw. Yeah, but in the game, Nakamura played bishop b6, and Svidler took that pawn. Yeah, rook takes e4. And yeah, black now after queen takes e6 is a pawn down, and a couple of pieces are hanging, but he just has this one, rook a to e8. Yeah, it's a funny point. In the game, we see what happens after queen takes b6. So, I can show it right away. Svidler took this now, and then the game ended in a draw immediately after rook h4, threatening mate. And after the capture, which was played,
check,
is this perpetual.
Check, check, check.
So we could try to find an improvement. White is a pawn up after all. This move is a bit tougher, but I understand why Svidler didn't go for it, because I think black's play is just very dangerous and there's very little upside to this move. I mean, black will take, and now he can just continue this attack. The thing is that the bishop is still not hanging due to that rook h3 resource, so black can play, if he likes, a move like king to h7 or so, and ask white, okay, you really don't want to take on b6 and make a draw? Yeah, and if white tries to avoid it, oops, that was stupid, black can try to attack like that. For example, also rook e6 comes into consideration. So black is kind of increasing the pressure, piling up, and white probably should take this, let's say, emergency exit by grabbing the bishop and just make the draw. This is really all that you can expect from this position. So Svidler and Nakamura ended in a draw. The next game to check is Aronian Topalov. And we already know the opening. Yeah, the same line. And funny enough, also this one. Yeah, though those two games are twin games in a way, very, very similar. Yeah, a5, identical, b3, and now queen e7. This is, I think, different, right? Let me have a look. Yeah, rook e8 was played by Nakamura, queen e7 here by Topalov. It's nearly identical. I mean, you can change the move orders here. Bishop b2, bishop c5, and here e3. Yeah, we have the same thing again. Yeah, taking on c5. It's not leading to much at all for white. e3, bishop back, knight c3, rook e8. And now we come to a totally new idea. I mean, not totally new for chess, but new if you compare this game to the game Svidler Nakamura, knight to h4 by Aronian. Interesting move, and to be honest, I don't quite understand the point. Because white does not want to play f4, definitely not. And possible knight d5, knight takes d5 usually is answered by c takes d5 anyway, so I'm not quite sure why you have to move the knight. Yeah, I'm slightly at a loss. I mean, it does not really hurt white, definitely not, but I'm not totally sure what the point is. Yeah, Topalov went back to d8. The reason is, just like in the other game, he wants to clear the e7 square for this knight, which makes me question the move queen e7 in the first place, but this is not a very tempo sensitive position. So went back, white centralized, c6, knight e2, and now knight f5. So this gets traded. Now d4. Yeah, I think white is probably not unhappy about the recent developments. Here he's got some expansion going in the center. On the other hand, black is certainly also not so unhappy. He has quite decent pieces and no particular weaknesses. c3, black now captured. And now I think the next move is probably not that great by Topalov. He plays knight to e4, trying to trade two pairs of minor pieces. I think instead maybe bishop h3 was better, to just trade the bishops and then play queen to d7. White has a little bit more space, but this should never be a big problem. The issue with his move is, the idea is understandable, yeah, to trade some pieces because you have less space, and this is quite often a key idea, to trade off some pieces when your maneuvering room is limited. The problem with this is that after all those captures and rook e1, black is losing this battle on the e-file, and
check.
This happened. Queen f5, and here white is just better, and it's not. It's pretty clear. We see rook e7 happening. If black instead would have played queen to d7, the pawn is hanging. This is the problem. You're currently slightly in some slight coordination issues. Yeah, queen to f5 is mentioned, rook e7, rook b8, and king g2. Yeah, this covers some good squares. Queen e2 also was possible instead of this move, but we see something that is very, very similar to that. d5, and now I have to admit that again, I don't quite understand the next couple of moves by white. Here it felt to me that the move queen f3 looks very, very normal and obvious. Also keeping some tension here in the center. He played c5 just to show what happened, but this looks, I think, pretty logical. We look at this f7 pawn, and the queen cannot really avoid the trade. If you go back here, just grab on d5. So trades.
Check.
And now there is still some tension, and I think this is more promising than playing c5, after which the structure becomes very, very rigid. Here, sometimes maybe like taking and rook d7 becomes an option to just win this pawn. And white also has the more active king. The king here is actually doing something, probably like king e2, king d3. At least covering some entry squares on the E and C file. I think this is better. It's just better than c5. But okay, this was played by Aronian.
Check.
Yeah, I mean, it also looks promising, but it seems that ultimately, after bishop c3 is the next one. I would still probably play queen f3, but after this, black gets in rook c8, and now it seems that black is okay because black can move this bishop next. Leads to the rook trade. Yeah, the alternative was some move like this to being able to keep the rook on. I think this is also more aggressive than what Aronian tried. After rook f8, bishop c7, he now has to trade. And now we have a position just with bishops and queens. And this the advantage that white had with this superior space and the invaded rook on e7 is now gone. In fact, black has a couple of more pawns on light squares, and in the game went on to expand a little bit. Yeah, I mean, if anybody, black is a little bit better here, but of course the situation is very, very blocked, and it gets even worse.
Check.
Here with this, with g4 and f4. I mean, it looks pretty awkward for white because your bishop on f2 is just bad, but the position is so closed that this is not becoming a factor. The only thing that white has to avoid is black invading somewhere on the light squares, but this can only happen if you basically fall asleep over the board. They played
Check.
a couple of more moves actually.
Check.
Yeah, and here after b6, bishop d8, agreed to a draw. Yeah, not a very exciting game. I think the system here shown or chosen by Nakamura or Topalov seems to be quite reliable for black. Yeah, it's a strategically well-founded system that is difficult to attack with white. Even though here Aronian, if he would have avoided those piece trades, could have still pressed in this game. Yeah, it didn't ultimately lead to anything after c5, but here he had a little something. Probably knight e4 was not so precise by Topalov. Okay, now we come to the main feature, let's say, of this video, the game Caruana Anand. Yeah, I already said that it's an English opening, so no big surprise. We have the same line. But now Vichy plays differently. He plays the sharpest and most interesting move in the position, the move e4. And we can thank him for that. That really led to an interesting game. I think more interesting than what we saw in the earlier games where Levon and Svidler had the white pieces. Okay, knight g5, takes, rook e8, f3. We have seen this before in the game Svidler-Karjakin, where Karjakin now went for the very enterprising idea e3. Very sharp stuff. After d3, d5, Svidler went queen a4, and it was a very sharp, interesting game. Anand, however, captures. And this is something that he has played before, numerous times actually. It's not just in one game. So it was something that could be expected here. Knight takes and d5. Yeah, very interesting. Again, strategically. Black gives up the bishop pair, but still goes for an opening of the position. This is, as we had in some other games early in the tournament, due to his development and due to some concrete ideas. If white captures on d5, queen takes d5 is played. And there are a couple of interesting ideas. Black can, for example, go for this and potentially bishop h3, which also would be the end of the pair of bishops. Here black's, I think, lively piece play is a very good compensation for the bishop pair. Note that the pawns also cannot be used that quickly and easily. If white tries this move, then black can just continue with normal moves, let's say. This in particular will be an issue for white. d4 ever is played by Caruana. This move was introduced into tournament practice by Kasparov, almost 30 years ago. It's a long time. I still remember seeing that game in a chess magazine and being surprised how white can win so quickly with the English opening. It is an interesting try and much more aggressive than c takes d5. Takes. I wonder what did Ivanchuk play? I think Ivanchuk played this move. I should have looked that up. Actually, I didn't. I think he played this one. Queen c2. And I know that white. I remember that white played some rook b1, and also after some f5 there was g4. It was a very dynamic game by Kasparov. Okay, but Anand plays differently. He plays the capture on c4. Here white has a couple of choices. The most popular move is probably the move bishop to g5, directly pinning the knight and potentially with the half-open f-file trying to inflict double pawns ahead of the king side for black. This move, however, seems to be okay for black. There have been a game, Aronian Anand, for example, from last year, where Vichy held quite comfortably. Knight e5 now, for example, isn't leading too much. This, for example, and white has no clear way forward from here. Something like this is certainly okay for white, but also black cannot complain. He's a pawn up, has active pieces, nothing terrible going on. Caruana comes up with a rarely seen move. It's not a novelty, but it's not very common. Queen to c2. Anand now plays h6. I think in view of the bishop g5 idea, a pretty reasonable choice. Bishop f4, just centralizing. And now knight e4 was played. Only this is the novelty technically. There is a game in the database between two lower rated players where knight e7 was played, which really feels after e4 or after knight e5 feels a little bit passive. This was probably even stronger, preventing knight g6 in the first place. So Anand's move certainly better. There also was knight d5, but after the e4, I think white will probably be happy with his broad center here. He definitely has compensation for his pawn. But knight e4 happened. A couple of choices. White already can play knight e5, but this move is clarifying the tension quite early. Oops, I'm sorry. Rook d1. This was the move by Caruana. I think this is the more interesting move, introducing the idea of playing possibly d5 in the right moment and asking the black knight where it wants to go. It's also rook against queen on the same file, which is really often useful. Okay, bishop to f5. Note that Caruana clearly was still in his preparation while Anand had to think. Knight e5 looks very logical, attacking this. What about knight takes g3? Anand didn't play that. If he would have gone for that, white of course goes e4. Very funny sequence now. Rook gets taken, takes here, And yeah, black probably should try to get a pawn at least for his worries. Knight takes h2 and bishop h2. A very strange material distribution. Black has got rook and 3 pawns for 2 bishops. The 2 bishops, however, are placed very actively, very aggressively, and I think that white should be okay here. I watched part of Jan Gustafsson's video on this game. Only watched the beginning and basically the opening up to this point roughly, and then I had to leave, unfortunately. Anyway, it was not. I didn't stop the video because it was so bad or anything. Just in case you think it was very good, in fact, up to this point. Jan discussed that he thinks that white is better here. It's possible. I mean, I know that he's probably an almost equally awful bishop fetishist. So yeah, we probably have similar tastes here. I also think that white can be happy here. The bishops are very strong, and it's not clear what black's plan is. Something like this, and well, I think here white's plans like this, and everything is also hanging. You can. It's tough for black to cover all the pawns. I think white is probably happy here, especially in a game between human players. Yeah, Anand avoided this and just went back to d6. e4. Yeah, white has won this battle here in the center. Bishop back and queen to e2. The queen is looking at this, but also looking towards swinging over to the king side and trying to make black's king feel insecure. Knight to e7 now by Anand. And in the view of the upcoming complication, you could try to improve on that move. I don't think it's particularly bad. It's just that the positions after it get extremely difficult to handle. So knight e7. And here in this position, it's possible that Caruana's move, which he played after about 30 minutes, I think, if I remember correctly. I watched part of the broadcast. It's possible that this is even not the best move from a purely, let's say, mathematical engine type of perspective. But this is only half of the truth. It's very, very tough to defend after it. He took on h6, going for this piece sacrifice. It was not necessary to do that. I mean, white would have been better also with, let's say, normal strategic moves. Rook e1, bishop back here to reroute, attack f7. A couple of things that he could have done. So it's not a necessary sacrifice in a way. We should note, by the way, that this simple move is not so great due to knight d5. This is actually quite annoying, looking at those two. And e4, of course, is attacked. Yeah, but let's look at this. He sacrificed the bishop. Wow. Okay. Anand decided ultimately to take it. Interesting that he took quite a long time. You would think that there is really no alternative. If you don't take it, you're lost anyway. But okay, he decided to check. And now queen to h5. That was the point. And it's really remarkable. White has given this for just one pawn at the moment, but f7 is attacked and h6 is attacked. And it's quite clearly impossible to defend both by some simple move, let's say. If for example, like king here, there's just knight f7 and black is exploding. Or rook f8 covering this, then white is going to take on h6, and this is also not going to end well. White has very simple attacking ideas like this and this, or rook f6. If black takes, for example, here, both ideas actually, That's very unadvisable. The thing is, there probably is a way to defend the position, but this is something that is simply beyond human capabilities, I think. The move that seems to save black is knight to d5. It's, I mean, okay. The point is that now the queen is opened up here. And this comes into play after e takes d5, queen g5. White is better after queen f3 here. This, however, is not the only line that black, if we think about this from black's perspective, had to spot, this is not easy in the first place, but the most threatening looking move is knight f7 here in this position. And here the amazing thing is that the move knight f6, which is a bit of a shocker, seems to hold. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, then the queen hangs, but if white takes it, then after knight takes h5, this didn't make any sense. Yeah, this is a trap piece. So what should white do? We can check here. Okay, black goes into the corner, and after the queen goes back, black only has one move again. He has to do this. Rook takes, bishop takes, knight takes, and amazingly the engine gives this as a totally equal position. It finds some wacky perpetual a couple of moves later. But who on earth is going to find that? Like this? Wow. Yeah. Very, very remarkable line. Yeah, I can tell you who didn't find it, Anand. But as I said, it's very, very, it's almost inhuman to see that. He played this move, knight e to f5, returning a piece that covers both. But of course, it's not ideal. Yeah, white now can happily trade on g5.
Check.
And play the move f6. And this is awkward. Now we're dealing with an equal material position now, where white has the much better pieces. The bishop on g2 is strong, the knight on e5 is excellent, and that pawn on f6 is limiting black's scope of activity quite a bit. Still, if black now starts to defend perfectly with stuff like c6 or rook a to d8, he still could have held on, I think that's right, quite tenaciously. Anand, however, plays knight to e4. He tries to be more active, but this seems to lead into even more trouble. Caruana's move now is rook f e1, and it is not bad at all. However, the simple capture is pointed out by the computer, and then h4, and this is probably even stronger. The biggest point is that black cannot take on h4 because rook f4 is winning then. Yeah, for example, this check. And now
checkmate.
Yeah, a couple of mates, or this
check,
which is not mate, but it doesn't change the result. It's really, really funny. Black cannot take on h4, so he has to play whatever, and then white can even think about just taking on g5. So that solution was probably even stronger. I think what Caruana calculated mostly is what he played. He played rook e1, and he saw that knight takes c3 is not working, and if that's not working, black is just basically obliged to go back to d6. Taking that pawn doesn't really help, as bishop b7 will crash through on the diagonal, like this and this. Yeah, Anand took it on c3, and this is ultimately losing. After knight d6 he was worse but could continue. This is the problem. Now you cannot grab on a2 as after rook c4 all the escape squares of the knight are controlled, so the knight will get lost. Yeah, this is what he still tried, but now here bishop b7, and it's impossible now for black to hold. Yeah, here is awkward double attack. You tried knight d4, and here white is an exchanger.
Check.
Always
Checkmate.
look for checkmates.
Check.
Yeah, after rook f1 now Anand resigned. He's forced now to trade rooks.
Check.
And after this rook gets traded, the issue is that many black pawns, like all those here, are still weak and will likely fall victim to the rook. So a win by Caruana, very nice win with this great bishop takes h6 move. Also very good preparation. I think this was largely also a fruit of good home prep. This idea was difficult for Vichy to handle, and it seems that he did not have a super deep preparation there available. Yeah, very nicely played by Caruana, who with this win also gets to +2. So he joins Karjakin in the lead, and Anand, after this loss, is back to a +1 score. Not out of it, but this kind of loss against a direct contender like Caruana is a problem, because now, for example, Anand is half a point behind Caruana, but if he catches him, that doesn't help, because Caruana has won this game and is leading in their head-to-head matchup. So on even scores, Caruana would advance. Makes it difficult for Vichy, especially that he is also behind 1 point against Karjakin. Okay, against Karjakin he's playing on this Thursday in round 11. So with a win he could actually even the individual match score. But okay, still 4 rounds to play. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. The tournament is getting more exciting, I think, every round. And we will certainly have lots of tension in the final round, and the round before that will be very, very close call, I guess. Okay, thanks for watching.